John and I have done this program for about 15 years now. So we've been in Canada many more than just one time, and we've been across the United States. So it's going to be very interactive. We are going to do some introduction, and we're going to do a tag team. So I'll talk, and then John will talk, and then I'll talk. But there will be lots of exercises for you to talk amongst yourselves and to actually try things out. Because one of the really important things about this process is you need to practice it. You need to think about it. You need to practice it until it becomes more or less second nature. So we had two funders, which we have down here at the bottom here. We were funded initially back in the 1990s to develop this program. The William and Flora Hewlett Foundation do a lot in terms of international conflict resolution, and the United States Department of Education does a lot in terms of improvement of the colleges and universities in the United States. So we're going to show you three very short vignettes. You're going to see them again, but these are the kinds of things that we are going to be talking about, the kinds of conflicts that we're going to be talking about today that involve both graduate students and faculty members.
Scott, I think this is great. This is ready for publication.
That's great. I was just at the national conference, and the editor of the Western Journal of Quantum Quality said we could have that out by June.
The Western Journal of Quantum Quality? That would be a waste of a great article. Nothing from this lab has ever been printed in anything but a first-tier international journal.
Dr. Modi, those things take forever. I need it out now for my job search.
Not in that journal, not with my name on it, and not from this lab.
Hi, Dr. Hula.
Oh, hi, Ceci. What's up?
Well, actually, things aren't going too well.
Why's that?
I'm a little confused. I just don't understand what you want from me sometimes.
Well, if you have to ask, maybe you don't belong in graduate school.
Gloria, why did you cancel your discussion section of my course yesterday?
My daughter, she woke up with a temperature and she was sick, and I didn't have anyone to take care of her at the last minute, so I had to stay home. I'm a single parent, and there was nobody to call at the last minute.
Do you realize that this is at least the third time that this has happened this semester, and that undergraduate students are beginning to complain? If you don't take care of this situation soon, it may impact your ability to be assigned a section next semester.
Okay, so those are just three examples. We have lots of them. We're going to keep coming back to these as examples of the kinds of conflicts that can arise in graduate education between faculty and students when the students don't understand what's expected of them, if the rules and policies aren't clear, if there's no place people can go for information. So part of what we're going to be teaching you today is ways to have conversations about these kinds of instances where, in fact, you can be productive and you can come up with good solutions for solving problems. So there are several basic assumptions we're going to start with. One is that many issues in graduate education are simply not negotiable. You can't have much of a conversation about them because they're either laws, contracts, requirements. We have them in Michigan in the United States. You have them in Canada or wherever you might be from. And they're things you can talk about. They're not things that you can negotiate one way or the other. A law is a law, and a contract then has to be followed. Conflict in itself is neither good nor bad. It is actually conflict over ideas, conflict over data, conflict over papers that actually move knowledge forward. So in your disciplines, you would have conflicts with others about ideas and research that you're doing. But interpersonal conflict, the kinds of conflicts that you saw in those videos, the way that you handle that kind of conflict can be very devastating, particularly for students. So again, the program actually works with you to try to help you figure out how to approach those kinds of interpersonal conflicts with a much more positive way of coming up with a resolution. Another basic assumption is that the power differential between graduate students and graduate faculty or faculty always exists, and that is not going to change. Faculty have many kinds of power. One kind of power is expert power. They are the ones with the PhDs or the advanced degrees. They understand what's needed in the discipline. But that doesn't mean that graduate students are left with no tools or skills at all for talking to faculty about solving some of these kinds of problems. So we're going to be talking about that. And we also expect that we do not need to have 100% completion. Everybody that enters a graduate program is not going to complete that graduate program. There are lots of reasons for that. Some have to do with academics, some have to do with personal circumstances. But as you'll see, a lot of times the conflicts that arise in graduate education arise because there are issues related to someone staying in the program. So nationally in the United States, about 40% of students entering PhD programs actually don't get their degrees. They drop out at some time or another. They can drop out early or they can drop out late. The reasons for leaving before completion differ greatly. People who leave their PhD programs in the first couple of years usually leave because they find that, in fact, graduate education is not what they want to do. They're in the wrong place. A partner or a spouse wants to move someplace else, so they go off someplace else to do their degree. And there are late leavers, and people who leave late in their programs, at year 4 or 5, those are the ones that we mostly have focused on in this program because they're generally leaving because they're now in some conflict with a faculty member or sets of faculty members or the department or the department chair or someone that makes it very difficult for them to conceive of themselves as completing. And many of those conflicts are based on interpersonal relationships with faculty. It's a very small community. It's one faculty member and one student, or a small group of faculty members and a student. And so you magnify the power differential in those kinds of situations. And there's also some research by Barbara Lovitz that students who leave late in their programs or midway through their programs often were not integrated into the department. That is, they feel like strangers in their own disciplinary department, or they don't come to the events in that department, and they have not been able to get the inside information that may not be written in a rule book about how to get along in that department and how to move along in that department. Students may not have adequate financial support. Your support systems may be different in Canada than they are in the United States, but in the U.S., most PhD students have some sort of financial support, fellowships or assistantships, to be able to move through their programs. And once that is gone, it is very difficult for students to continue. And sometimes that financial support is linked to those faculty members and could be linked to a problem with conflict. Personal decisions obviously are ones. If you have family members who fall ill, or if you have a spouse who gets a job, goes someplace else, or gets a postdoc and goes someplace else, oftentimes people will move. And then there are issues related to poor fit. That program wasn't particularly good for you as a student, and that you may have gotten admitted to the program, but it was not a good decision.